world of coaching evolving and the carousel always changing, we're going to sit down with some coaches and we're going to figure out what they coach, how they coach, and most importantly, why they got into this profession. My name is Kason Wilkinson, and I am your host of the Coaches Why podcast.
That was my Coaches Why.
Welcome back to another episode of the Coaches Why podcast. I'm your host, Kason. Now, kind of crazy, but we decided to do this podcast again. I apologize for the delays of everything, but, I'm not going to lie, I kind of took a step away from the podcasting game, and I've spoke to a few coaches, and they thought that I should get back into it, and, so here I am. So when I do these solo episodes, I just kind of want to dive into a little bit about me and answer some of these questions that I ask these other coaches. And before I do that, I just want to say thank you guys so much for your continued support over the years. If you have listened to the last season, also, I just want to say thank you for, coming back to listen to it. And if you're listening to it now, thank you guys so much. Just so you guys know, we are on YouTube, we are on Spotify, we are on Apple Podcasts, and we are on PocketCasts. Now, Apple Podcasts is something new this year, so if you are on Apple, you can go listen over there. But regardless, I just want to say thank you guys so much. If you guys are on YouTube, right, make sure you guys like and subscribe, all that stuff. Everywhere else, make sure you guys leave a review, hit those stars, whatever you say it with your chest, because I would love to hear what you have to say. And today's going to be a solo. Today's the intro to season 2, so I just want to kind of ask or answer one of these questions that I will be asking multiple coaches this year. We have quite a few lined up, so I cannot wait to show those. I cannot wait to show those episodes and have those guests come on the show and kind of just, grow the podcast this year. I'm really looking forward to having more than just football of the high school level, really looking more than just wrestling, and looking forward to expanding the sports we have and the genre and the levels and all that stuff. So stay tuned for the season. The first question I'd like to answer for you guys, it's going to be something that you see kind of midway through the first 10, 15 minutes of the show or so. But it's, as you developed in that sport, when did you realize that you could play at the next level, and what was your recruiting process like? Now, that may be asked in other ways throughout the year, but that's how the actual question is written, and that's how will most of the time be asked. And to kind of keep it on the short side, I don't want to have this podcast go too long or this episode go too long, but I will break it down a little bit for you guys. So in high school, I was a 3-sport athlete. As a senior, I did football, I wrestled, and I did track and field. So really where my whole time of when I knew I could go to the next level was sometime during junior year, towards the end of the season. We were getting kind of beat down. We were not good my junior year. I think we were 2-7 at that time, maybe 1 and I don't know. We weren't very good. We finished that year 3-7. But it might have been 3-8 at that time, whatever. Or 3-6, sorry, that's not right math. 3-6 at that time, but either way, it was towards the end of the year, and we were doing this drill. We had a big defensive lineman. It was 2 O linemen, 2 D linemen, and a running back and a linebacker, and I played linebacker. And so they put in anybody could run the ball. So it was one of our bigger D linemen. He was probably in the 250, 260 range, I think. And so as a junior, we were just running these plays, running this drill, and there was one particular play where I don't exactly know what happened, but I can't remember exactly, but I do know I tackled him. It was like goal line drill, so he had like 5 yards to go, and I stopped him heads up. I pretty much chopped his ankles, if you would, but just knowing how to adjust, body levels, if I guess. And right after that play, coach came over to me and said, "Hey, you can play at the D2 level. Just keep working. You've come a long way. Keep working. You can play at the next level." And at that moment, I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go play." Right? I was like, "Oh, cool." So a few days later, might have been that week, might have been right after season, but he came and talked to me and he said, "You got to get your grades right. Your what your grades are right now is not going to cut it." So at that time, I was like a 2.0, 2.2, 2.3 student. Like, I did not care about school. My mom even said that if I didn't have sports, I probably wouldn't have graduated. Probably true. But long story short, from there, I focused on school, right? I finished the last 3 semesters with over a 3.5, and so that was my big focus. So once that happened, right, I had a few schools I talked to. Actually, let's go into the wrestling. So wrestling was my first year wrestling as a senior. I never wrestled before. I wrestled a year as a seventh grader back in middle school, but I just didn't like it. It also didn't help that I didn't have many people wrestling my size. A little bit bigger. I think it was like 160 as a seventh grader, somewhere in there. So there wasn't a lot of kids at that size. There were some bigger kids than me and some smaller kids than me, but I think I only got like 3 matches that year, so I didn't really wrestle much. So I didn't really like it. I didn't really get to feel competition on that level, so I just never went back. And so I got recruited out of football by Coach Stout, and he sent me a message on Twitter, actually. I think it was. Yeah, I believe it was on Twitter, and told me to come out for wrestling, and went pretty well. I think I went 44-13 as my 1 year, and I placed at state, took third, and neither here nor there. But I thought the state championship match was between me and the semi guy, or the guy that we faced in the semis, because that dude walked the other dude in the state finals. So I thought that was probably that should have been the state finals match. But regardless, that's how that worked. And from there I went to track, and track I only did for 2 years as well. After me and baseball didn't work out, I did it in junior year and senior year, and I placed as a junior, did really well. I was like 6th in state going into the final throw, and I had a really good friend of mine, Craig. There's a video somewhere, but he ran down to the end of the pit and he's like, "Kason, throw to me." And next thing you know, I threw my best throw all year. I can't remember what it was. I think it was in the mid 40s, like 45, 46, somewhere in there. And that put me in third place. So I placed there, and then senior year, same thing. I went in, I think like number 3 or 4 in 4A, and I placed again there. And so I had a few. Now, to go to the recruiting process side of things, like old school days in football, I didn't go to NCSA. I didn't do any of that. I spent literally all summer as a junior. I used to get the big stack of CDs, DVDs, and I would literally burn them on my mom's DVD machine, because she had a burn machine. And I sent out probably over 300 of those that summer with a generalized email, or generalized like letter to send out, and ended up getting a few kind of off of that, but really I had 2 for football, Bemidji State and Augustana College, and those were kind of the 2 I was gung-ho on. Augustana I think was a D2 at the time. Maybe they were NAI, but they were a 4-year school. And I think Bemidji was also a 2-year school, or a D2 school. I can't remember. But I was riding high on those, and, going into senior year, transitioning to wrestling, we were talking a lot. We were planning visits and all this stuff. And I don't know if I think the Augustana was where I was really leaning towards, and I believe their coaching staff left. I can't remember 100%, but that kind of fizzled out, whatever it was. So that didn't work. But wrestling came along. After wrestling season, I had opportunity. I thought I did well, but it is what it is. And I had 3 real opportunities for that. I had an opportunity to go compete at Arkansas Baptist in Arkansas. It was at JUCO at the time. Adams State, which we see here, and then North Dakota State sent me a letter once to walk on, which was pretty cool. But I knew I wasn't D1 guy, and I really didn't want to go up to a D1 school without a scholarship, and I'm so glad I didn't do that. Even though North Dakota State probably would have been cool to see at that time, like they had Carson Wentz, right? They had all these guys that made it. He made it to the Eagles and played pro ball, so it'd probably been a cool football side, but never worked out. I'm glad I didn't go there anyways. So if you're in North Dakota, no disrespect, but it is what it is. And so the 2 really came down to Adams State and Arkansas Baptist, and really at the end of the day I chose Adams State, partially because the money, scholarship, but also because the D2 thing that stuck in my head from my football coach telling me, like, you can compete there. I took that with me, and Arkansas Baptist, was a great opportunity. They said I could do both football and wrestling out there, and who knows what that would have led to, but I ultimately decided to go with Adams State, partially because it was closer to home, but also because I felt like where I was at mentally, I wanted to compete at the best level I could, and that was there. And conversation for another time, whether that was the case or not. I didn't pan out in D2 like I was hoping I would, and by that time, it just is what it is. But that was kind of my recruiting journey. From high school into that, really, and track had a few offers too. Like, I know I did a visit to Colorado Mesa for track to walk on there. I had an opportunity to go to Minot State for track for throws, and then I had one to Redlands in California for track as well. So I guess overall, I had 2 for football, 3 for wrestling, and then 3 for track. So it's that 8 different offers, or 8 different schools talking to me, and really led to like 2 or 3 different actual offers to go. I had 1 real offer in track and the 2 real offers in wrestling. So it was fun, and still to this day, recruiting is one of my favorite things to do. So as a coach, I've always wanted to pass that out to my kids, like, hey, look into all your options. Don't just go to D1 or bust mentality, and really look at all your options, because you never know what one might lead you to. And so that's the reason why this podcast is so important to me, is because I get to talk to coaches from all different levels. They get to talk about their philosophies. They get to talk about their recruiting. If they're in high school, they get to talk about, if they're an assistant, how they grow. If they're a head coach, how they grow, right? What's your philosophy? Why do you do this? And every coach has their reasons. Every coach has their why. And every coach has the ultimate purpose for what they're doing. And so what you're going to find out in this podcast is you're going to find a lot of different coaches. You're going to find a lot of different philosophies. You're going to find a lot of different loves and dislikes. You're going to find a lot of different cultures and how they build cultures and things like that. You're also going to find a lot of different demographic from coaches from all over the country. Or at all different parts of the country, and how they go about their business. Like I said, with recruiting or building their programs, how they go about, what they take into their coaching every day, how they teach these athletes, things like that. So long story short, I really appreciate you guys listening, and I really look forward to this first initial season of, or I should say this, I look forward to the second official season of the Coaches Why podcast. And so, like I said at the beginning, if you guys are still watching this point, make sure you guys HTB, like, subscribe, all that stuff if you're on YouTube. If you guys are on any of the listening platforms and you're an audio listener, make sure you guys hit that, or leave a review, yes, as well as hit the stars. But whatever you say with your chest, because I really would like to hear it. And I cannot wait to drop these these episodes, and I cannot wait to get with these coaches, and hopefully you guys as listeners take a lot from it, especially if you're a coach of any level. Hopefully you guys can pick some brains. Hopefully you guys can understand some of the stuff they do, and hopefully you guys can utilize some of the stuff that they mention into your own program or into your own approach as a coach. So that's why they do it, and that is the reason why I created this podcast. So my why for this podcast is to find the coach's why. But with that being said, thank you guys for listening to the intro of season 2. We'll be back with the first official guest next time. Peace.